This diagram purports to demonstrate perfect competition. Again, well, we'll show two equilibrium diagrams side by side, firm A and firm B. Both of them will have the same demand curve. That's essential in a perfect market model, and their demand curve for their firm will be horizontal. We call it the average revenue curve there, and I'll label the diagrams up to get full marks. The average revenue curve in each case is horizontal, and that says that the firm can produce as much as it wants at the market price. It can have no particular impact on the market. Well, the slope of that line is 0, so the marginal revenue curve is the same because it's just twice the slope. So now we've got our demand curve for the individual firm, and the average revenue and marginal revenue is exactly the same curve. Now we'll add on the average cost and marginal cost curves of this firm. Just draw them on there, and you'll see that they're marked in so that the profit maximising is the lowest average cost, and this is again comes from the perfect market model and says that firm A will have this amount of revenue if it sells at the market price. It has no incentive to charge a higher price because it wouldn't sell anything. And it has no incentive to charge a lower price because it could actually sell at this price and maximise its profits. Firm B, on the other hand, if it has costs like this, because it's got a higher cost of capital, higher wages, higher overhead costs, whatever they might be, it's not in the market. It cannot produce at a level at which it can cover its average costs. And so for the moment, that firm is not in the market. What firm B needs is a shift upwards of the demand curve, say to here, and then it would be able to supply into the market at a profit maximising price. Okay, now we come to the diagram for monopoly. You know, and I think we'd just be like Blue Peter and say, here's one we made earlier. It's the diagram of the theory of the firm. All that's different in monopoly is that the firm is the market. Rather than that demand curve being shared amongst lots of different firms in the market, there's just one firm dominating the market, and that means it can protect its profit by keeping others out of the market and by dominating that particular market. In a pure monopoly, the average revenue curve is the same for the firm and the market. This is the diagram that relates to one of the many forms of oligopoly, and that is price leadership, where the firms in the market follow a price leader. Now, what we need for this are two demand curves. One, the demand curve for the whole of the industry, so that's the market demand curve. Say it's for cars in the UK marketplace. And then we'll put on here the demand curve for the leader. We'll call that DL. Here's the demand curve that the individual firm that leads the market, perhaps because it is the cheapest, perhaps because it is the biggest volume producer, but it leads the market in some way. The market leader sets the price. And it sets the price through maximising its own profits. Here's the marginal revenue curve for the leader, and here's the marginal cost curve for the leader. And the leader can say, at this level of output, we'll call it QL for the leader, this is the price of my car in the marketplace, P leader. And obviously if we had an average cost curve in there, we could call off the profit, but we don't need that because this diagram illustrates the fact that this price then is used as a benchmark by everybody else in the industry. that price in the market for say, the entry-level family car or the entry-level hatchback is set by the market leader. And you've got the quantity for the industry. One last thing that this diagram shows is that the market leader's share of the market and the market left to all the other competitors in the oligopoly equals the total market. We're back with our typical grid again, our diagram, and this time we're going to illustrate another form of oligopoly, the kinked demand curve. This is the form of oligopoly where there in fact are two parts to the demand curve, and so we see a kink in the demand curve. The reason for this, call that the DK, the kinked demand curve, the reason for that is that firms are competing so tightly in the market that if one firm raises its prices above the equilibrium level of price, which is at the point of the kink, then its competitors won't follow suit because they'll just swallow up the market share that that firm loses. And there's, of course, no incentive to drop below the market price because that will start a price war. If you take market share from your competitors, they will fight you. If we look at where that leaves the marginal revenue curve, in fact, there are two marginal revenue curves. One, twice the slope of the upper part, and the second one, twice the slope of the lower part. But as you can see, it's discontinuous. There's a gap in the marginal revenue. If we draw those two marginal revenue portions on, there's a gap. And this means that when the oligopolist comes to decide on pricing in the market, it may have marginal costs like this. Those marginal costs may go up, but it will still call off the same price in the market. The illustration here that firms cannot pass on cost rises that happen to them as an individual company if the market price is too sensitive. So you will see firms absorbing cost rises and keeping their price in the market the same as all of their competitors.